In our last exercise, we did the prefab bounce, and we did this beautiful bouncing eyeball. And now I wanted to show you how how I would add the sound to actually bring it more to life. If you watch it without the sound, as we did in our last movie, it really doesn't have the same personality with even just that little bit of sound. So here goes. Let's add some event sound. I'm going to create a layer, and I'm going to name it sound. And most industry folks prefer that you put that sound at the bottom layer for lots of different reasons, just for organization and also for the way that Flash processes information. It does top to bottom. So what we want to do is go through and find where the eyeball actually hits the ground. And in some cases it's hitting when it squashes, and in other cases it's hitting first and then squashing. So we are going to add a keyframe, an empty keyframe, using F7 at the point where it hits the ground. So in this case, that appears to be the point. F7, let's scrub along here, and hits. Yes, actually I'm not liking the way that's doing it, but I'm not going to change it. This is our prefab, remember. FN for the laptop, F7 to add the blank keyframe. Does it hit there? It hits there. F7, and at the very end we have one tiny little, doesn't actually bounce, but it definitely hits right there. F7. Alright, so now we've got our spots set up, and even though we can go out on the internet and find sounds or create our own sounds, I'm actually going to just use the built-in sound library that Flash has, and it's under Window, Common Libraries, and you can see we have buttons, classes, and sounds. So the sound library is full of really odd odd sounds like screams and hiccups and coughs and breaking things, like here's a crashing glass. Okay, or you've got your bark. Okay, so we're looking for something like when it hits the ground, and you're obviously not going to find a sound that says eyeball hitting the ground, and we might not even find one that is, perfect. Let's not wonder about this liquid and ice thing. Ooh, that's a nice wet sound. Let's see what we get on the next one. Well, in the example I had used something a little more solid, but oh, that's definitely bubbles. Let's try this squishy ice one and see how it goes. All right, so I've got this squishy sound, and it's definitely going to have a little different effect than the one that I showed you a moment ago. So while we have our keyframe selected, I'm going to drag that onto the stage, oddly enough, and then the sound is going to show up here. And at first it looks like just a little blip. Let me minimize this. Actually, I'll just close it. And I'm going to click on it, and now you can see that it's actually quite a long sound. If you want to see the sound in the library, here it is. Here's the one that was in the other one. That's impact wood drop. And here's the liquid squishy one. It doesn't look like it's as loud based on the sound waveform, but ooh. And it also, like the other sound, looks like it has a little dead space in the beginning. So we've got it on our stage. I'm going to go to the Properties window and take a look at what it says. It gives us the name of the sound here. We could change sounds if we wanted, but let's stick with our water ice thing. And we don't have any effect on it right now, but I do want to take a look at it in the editing environment. So I'm going to click on this pencil, and sure enough, there's a little bit of no waveform at the beginning. And since we want that sound to start right at that moment, we're going to trim it right to that point by just dragging this little handle in between the left and the right channel. This is a stereo sound. So we're going to trim it right to where the waveform begins. And this waveform, even though it's very flat, it goes out here. There's a couple of little tiny waves way out there that is probably why it has that soggy effect. But I'm going to trim those off also, just to shorten our sound a little bit. I'm going to keep the main sloshiness of it. Okay, let's take a look at that. And now, yes, you can see our sound is much shorter. Let's preview that. Okay, it doesn't sound as sloshy, again, because I trimmed it. Maybe we do want to keep a little of that slosh. Let's go back in there, and we can always untrim it by just bringing this back out, and maybe even a tiny bit before. Let me zoom in. You can see our waveform a little more clearly. And maybe I cut it a little too close to the start. Pull it back. Okay, yeah, there's a little tiny bit of waveform there. All right, let's listen to that. And yes, it's longer now. Here we go. Ooh, nice. Okay, so now that I've done a little bit of editing on that, I'm going to copy it. And this is a copy frame because we can't actually just copy it like like an object. So copy frame, and I'm going to paste frame. And I see that this is going off of your visual area, but you're familiar by now with paste frame. I'm right-clicking, and I'm going to the paste frame. And I'm doing it for each of these. Now the problem with just this is that, of course, now they're all equal, and as the bounces are getting smaller, our sound should probably get smaller. Let's listen to it without any further editing. Yeah, so especially on that last bounce, the sound is too large for the object. So let's just go down the line and click on each one of these, and we'll tone them down a little bit as we go. So I think what I'll do is just use the fade out, and we'll go here and we will fade both channels down on this first one. And we could bring the volume down just a little bit. Okay, we'll do both. So there we go. That's our first sound. Then our second one, let's do the same thing. And obviously we're not doing it mathematically, we're just doing it visually. I'll cut the volume down a little further and maybe have it fade out even sooner. Notice when I clicked here, I got both handles, but I have to pull both down if I want both channels. Oops. Huh. Well, that's how you get rid of them. You just pull them off. Just like that. Click, pull. All right, but I do want them. So there, when I click, I get both. I pull down the left, I pull down the right, and it's going to fade out much quicker now. And last but not least, we'll treat this one a little bit differently. We'll also trim it because we do want it to be a little deader of a sound. So I'm going to trim both ends and lower the volume and fade it out quicker. So we will miss that altogether. Let's pull it all the way down to mid, maybe even below mid. It's a very little bounce there, and have it fade all the way out. All right, let's do a little test of what we've got. Okay, I think they're still too close in volume. Again, it's tweak, tweak, tweak until you get it where you really want it. And so I'm going to lower that one. That was my second one. Third one needs to go past. Tweak, tweak, tweak. All right. And then the last one, we're going to really make it a very quiet little sound. Click on the keyframe, edit, and way down. All right, let's listen to that one. Okay, I might tweak that a little bit more, but you get the general idea. So have at it. Add some sound to your prefab bounce and have some fun.